I am delighted. I am delighted to welcome you to the first Hispanic Heritage Month webinar from TESOL International Association. Experiences in ELT, the Latin America and Caribbean role in developing the field. Webinars such as this are an important component of TESOL's recently launched association-wide efforts to increase diversity, equity, and inclusion in all aspects of TESOL. You can learn more about our efforts if you go to www.tsol.org, and Juliet will post in the chat the URL for those who are interested. Today, we have amazing experts from the Latin American and Caribbean region. It is important that I tell you that I have the highest respect for them and appreciation for the work they do. I have known most of them for over 10 years, so I am very pleased to also call them not only my colleagues, but call them my friends. And with us today, we have Miguel Ángel Carranza from El Salvador, Zuleika Zapateiro from Panama, Carolina Ortiz Rufinelli from Paraguay, Jesus Miguel Sosa Caraballo from Venezuela, and Grisel de Rosario from Dominican Republic. They will be sharing amazing work that they are doing in their countries. So pay close attention, and if you have comments or questions, they will be happy to answer when they finish their presentations. It is important that I explain to you that each panelist will have between 12 and 15 minutes to present. When all presentations have concluded, we will have a moderated Q&A period. You may post your questions to the chat so that everyone can see, or you can send them directly to me throughout the presentation. I am going to ask you to always remain mute during the presentations so that we have, as you know, we're in a virtual environment, so it's important to keep those microphones mute when we have the presenter delivering the presentation. So I have the pleasure of introducing our first panelist today, Licenciado Miguel Ángel Carranza de El Salvador. He works at the University of El Salvador and Universidad Centroamericana. He is the coordinator of the graduation process at the Department of Foreign Languages. He is the past coordinator for the BA in English Language Teaching, and he has taught at Universidad del Salvador for 25 years. He holds a BA in English from the University of El Salvador and a master's degree in education through a Fulbright scholarship from the University of Kansas. He has participated as a speaker at Universidad Don Bosco, Centro Cultural, Universidad del Salvador, and he has attended and participated in different TESOL conferences in Guatemala, Honduras, Mexico, Panama, Bolivia, Colombia, and the United States. So now, without further ado, Miguel, I leave you the stage and the microphone is yours.
Thank you, Gracia. It's a great pleasure to be here, great privilege to be sharing with these great colleagues about ELT in my country, about ELT in El Salvador. I will start sharing with you my presentation, which I call it ELT in El Salvador, Reforms, Experiences, Current Situation, and Challenges. And I think I will focus on the last 40 to 50 years of English language teaching in the country. And, you know, unfortunately, the landscape has not changed much in the last 50 years, except for some changes, and particularly in the last 5 years, there have been some improvements. But overall, I think the country has lacked a national plan for the teaching of English language teaching, as you will see later in my presentation. You know, I wanted to be fair, and I wanted to start talking about this reform that took place in the late 60s, in 1968. In this reform, some interesting things happened. Educational TV was created, textbooks were designed, students could have classes through TV, and the schools were provided with TVs. Probably there were fewer schools back then. The big problem was that the teachers could not speak English and they were not methodologically prepared. So all this big effort did not help that. I mean, it helped, but it didn't help that much, right? And then in the 80s, educational TV was closed. I mean, they probably ran out of money, or they were not, it was not being that effective. Still, it had some interesting things, you know, that educational TV was created and good books were also created. So that's what happened in the late 60s. And then I wanted to focus on the changes to communicative language teaching that happened in the country. In the early 90s, that was coincidentally when with the peace accords of the country, there was a lot of motivation from everyone in the country. USAID helped prepare teachers and design a new program, and 100 teachers from the country were sent to the US, and luckily I was one of those teachers who was at the University of South Carolina. We were receiving training and we were preparing a new curriculum. And the new curriculum had this, the new focus was on the communicative approach. We took into account Krashen's ideas on acquisition, debatable later, but still we use his ideas. We learned about cooperative learning, meaningful learning, and the natural approach. And like I said, we created this new curriculum that we were very proud of it. But let me tell you what happened to that effort. Teachers, particularly teachers who were working in the public sector, probably suffered from burnout because they were giving workshops and they were very motivated. But after 3 years, the project was not that successful anymore, let's say. In part, I think MINED, which is the Ministry of Education of the country, did not accompany this process, did not help, or did not really fully understood what this effort entailed. So everything is just staying promises, because teachers were asking, well, move from 2 classes to 3 classes a week, or at least assign a special classroom for English classes. But that didn't happen. It only happened in very few cases, but then the effort was lost. And a few years later, MINED officially changed programs, and the communicative language teaching approach moved or was not included. And now the new focus was on ESP, let's say, and one of the advisors work at the Ministry of Education said, well, maybe the children should learn to read in English, right? Because the communicative approach is not realistic, because classes are large, teachers are not prepared probably, and now the shift was towards the teaching of reading in English. And as you could predict, this was not very successful. Teachers did not like the program and did not use the curricula. So yeah, waste of effort. Now we move to the new millennium. In the year 2000, it was during President Saka's term that new educational plans were designed. And I want to focus on this particular project called Compete, which was an interesting proposal. That was in the 2004 when they created this. And the main idea was to make sure, or to graduate high schools, the high school graduates would graduate being bilingual by the year 2021. We are in the year 2021, and unfortunately, that's not happening. That didn't happen. I'll tell you why in a minute. Well, some students receive intensive English courses in language schools for 1 or 2 years, but not in the schools, but outside. So they paid some language schools for these extra courses, 1 or 2 years. And at the university, we received some of these students, and they got a very good level of English. They got a B1 or B2. Then again, a new government came in 2009, and Compete was shut down, and English language teaching lost relevance. The new government that came was Mauricio Funes government, was left affiliated, let's say, and then this government didn't like much, let's say, the idea of teaching English, right? Because of political orientations. Then in 2015, this colleague of mine, Nelson Martinez, came up with this research. He's a researcher at Don Bosco University, and he titled his research, "Students in public school of the countries are not learning English, or they are learning very little." And I coincide with his research. And I will also add that this is true in some small private schools of the country, right? The big exception is the private schools of the country, particularly those with religious affiliation, because there's more better academic culture or more academic rigor in these institutions. In Martinez's study, that he carried out in 2015. And I also agree with a lot of his findings, because that's what I can see in the students' research and in the reality of the schools is, well, public schools do not provide learning conditions. They don't have good libraries. They don't have books. They don't have computers. They don't have projectors. Very few of them have those resources. And then regarding methodology, teachers still teach by speaking Spanish in classes, right? And there's a big emphasis on grammar translation, grammar and the translation. And there is very little use of audio equipment, right? The teachers focus a lot on the textbook and grammar. So there's no emphasis on communicative language teaching in their classes. And this is recent, right? This is from 2015. As you can see, things have not changed or improved much. And we still have social studies teachers teaching English. So yeah, things haven't changed much, like I've been arguing, right? But then in the 2016 and during pandemic times, we have had these interesting projects for Millennium, which is a project, Millennium project from the United States government. And this one, it's a joint effort. You know, the United States provides some fund, and our government also provides some other funds. And at the end, it's a big chunk of money that they gather. And so this project for Millennium, this is the second one we have had, has benefited in different areas: new roads, infrastructure, and education. I like that the second one focused on education, because, I mean, roads are important, but we need to invest in education. So in the second for Millennium, they focus on this interesting project, strengthening the national education system. And they focus on the strengthening of 4 subjects: English, math, science, and social studies. But I think there was more emphasis to English, because they increased the number of hours they were teaching in particular schools. In certain schools, they were teaching 2 or 3 classes, and now the requirement was moved to teach 5 classes a week. And so there were a lot of benefits with for Millennium. A lot of students improved their conditions, but they focus on 8 departments that are, let's say, close to the beach or have access to the beach for strategical reasons, let's say. So tablets were given to students and to teachers. They were small tablets, but still with its corresponding software. And they also design new curriculum, and they move from 3 to 5 classes a week. So I was telling you. And there was also professional development for teachers. They had English classes to improve their level. And these 260 teachers started using also material aligned with international standards. So it's a very interesting project. It's a recent project, but like I said, it closed, right? Finished, that second for Millennium. Now, UCA and MINED, Ministry of Education and this private university, they have also been providing the professional development to teacher. I don't have the exact number of how many teachers were benefited, but they've been applying, they've been given professional development to teachers in the language teaching, to teach in different parts of the country. And again, probably 200, 300 teachers. And in 2017, also USAID conducted another project for university professors to improve the quality of education in the higher education. This project was called English for Academic Research. My institution was invited. There were 2 or 3 colleagues who were going to attend, but at the end they turned out. I wish I could have attended this interesting workshop. It's a good investment that they have in the country. Also in the country, there have been other ELT important programs. We have this Access program sponsored by the American Embassy, and that is administered by the Binational Center. There's also Superative, which is funded by private sector, and there are like 4 or 5 Superative branches, if I remember correctly, but now they're getting assistance from the American Embassy. So these are high school students who attend English classes, intensive English classes and computer classes in the afternoon. And also my university also had these other 2 programs, the Empower and the Saturday School. And this one just was intensive English classes. But then again, we also had the support of the US Embassy. They provided books and resources from the school. So this has been a very good collaboration, say. And during the pandemic, this group of teachers, I knew two of them, Sandra and Ms. Bencao. They applied for this grant to the group of former grantees, people who have studied in the United States and through the American Embassy, and they got some money, and they started this group of teachers online, and they have been given professional development online also. At one time, it was a training once a week, but nowadays it's once a month. But still, they say that they offer at least 400 people join the webinars each once a month, which is very interesting. Which are the opportunities I see? I think I see a great potential for improvement. The call centers are a big business in the country, let's say, or it's not necessarily a big business, but it's an area where a lot of young people that high school graduates could get their first job. I mean, this is a tough job, but it's what we get in the country. So there was this expectation to get 12,000 new jobs in the country in 2021, and apparently they are getting it. And even though the pandemic, right? But what I also read is that there was a need for 55,000 new jobs, but I'm not sure if we're going to fulfill it. But then again, I mean, I see this as an opportunity, and I think we should continue promoting the teaching of English in high school, in junior high schools, in the schools, so that we can improve or at least help the economy of these families, help the economy of the country. Like I said, this will be their first job, right? What I see as some challenges, or what can we do, right? I think first, we need educational policies towards strengthening of English language teaching in the country, because as you have seen, a new government comes, new policies come, or new plans come, new books come, or others close them. So we don't get to respect. We don't have a big plan, a national plan like other countries have it. I know the case of Costa Rica and also in Panama, they have Panama Bilingual, which has been very strong in the past years. So I think we also need a stronger leadership from MINED and from the people in charge of these offices. Maybe they need more money, more investment. And also teachers need continuous teacher development to improve their English and their methodology. And what I see as a big challenge is if the country is going to continue developing these relationships with the United States, to improve this relationship, because we have benefited a lot. But then again, I think this will depend on our government. This will depend on our president. But I hope we can continue to do that, because we've been making good changes. So that's what I have for you today. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you. Thank you, Miguel, for giving us this very interesting, teaching us about this interesting trajectory of ELT in El Salvador. I think we can find many similarities within our own context, and I'm sure the participants will relate to some of the things that you're saying. So next, we will hear from Zuleika Zapateiro from Panama Latina University. She graduated from the University of Panama with a BA in English, and she has a master's in TESOL from Universidad Latina de Panama. And she has been teaching English since 1995. She works as an academic coordinator to support the Ministry of Education's programs, specifically in Panama City, and collaborates as an active member of Panama TESOL since 2011. At present, she teaches at Universidad Latina de Panama and CELI, the Center for English Language Immersion. She has experience working with teenagers and adults in public and private institutions, and she has been a presenter at Panama TESOL Congress's Costa Rica TESOL through the affiliate ACPI TESOL, in Honduras with Healthy TESOL, and in Bolivia with Beta TESOL. Thank you, Zuleika. The floor is yours.
Hello, good afternoon. Thank you, Gracia. Well, today I am going to share with you a little of my experience in the teaching with teaching with bilingual programs in Panama. Then by Zuleika Zapateiro. Then who is Zuleika? Zuleika, she likes to cook. I love to cook. I love to try new recipes. I love to travel and meet new places. And the most important, I love to teach English to my students. I love to teach English to my students. Yes. Then this is my email if you want to contact me later. And then today I'm going to share a little about my experience teaching English, teaching with bilingual programs. So what are bilingual programs? What is the teacher training? My experience working with these four components of the bilingual program. And then, well, as Gracia said, at the end, we will have questions and answers. It's important to have in mind something that inspires you. Life as a teacher begins the day you realize that you are always a learner. So we as teachers, every day continue learning, and we are learners every day in every stage of our lives. What is the bilingual program, Panama Bilingüe? Panama Bilingüe program is a national strategy to prepare Panamanian people as bilingual professionals to obtain an economic growth in their country. This program is based in the new teaching way and improve the methodology, techniques, and strategies of teaching, as well as sharing experiences and teaching resources through technical assistance and international cooperation. The goal of the program is to promote English language learning among the Panamanian population by promoting a greater amount of opportunities by improving the quality of Panamanian people. This program, Panama Bilingüe, consists of some stages. The program is divided in local training in Panama and international training. The local training consists of 40 hours training for teachers of the official education system, those who work with the Ministry of Education, public schools. And they thought the objective is to identify, evaluate, and promote the development of competencies in the participants, in the teachers, through innovative teaching and learning strategies. For this training, the local training in Panama, international speakers come here they came here to train the teachers for a week from 8 to 5, yes, doing a lot of workshops, activities, designing materials. So it's a full training of 40 hours, and it happens during the recess, the week of recess or vacation, mini vacation that teachers have. So it's not real vacation because teachers continue training with new methodology with the bilingual program. As I mentioned, the teacher training, the local happens in Panama. It's called Back to Basics. It's 40-hour training just for teachers of the official system, those who work with the Ministry of Education. The international training consists of 8 weeks of training. And what happened there? Well, teachers learn the latest trends in using technology in the classroom. They improve their conversational skills by meeting and shadowing American or UK teachers who work with kinder up to 12th grader. Also, the teachers participate in academic co-curricular activities designed to enhance classroom content. Besides, teachers have the experience to experiment the American culture or British culture. Why? Because the training took place in the United States, in Canada, or the United Kingdom. So Panamanian teachers experience that, living in those countries for 8 weeks and studying in universities and also observing, visiting classrooms. Once they return to the country, they apply what they learn. I have I had the experience to receive this training at Wills University in Pennsylvania in 2016, 8 weeks of intensive training. The program provides teachers with the tools and strategies needed to improve their own abilities to speak, read, write, and comprehend the language, while doing and developing some feedback at the time they go and observe classes. Also, they participate with the teachers in their classrooms. And the main ideas I mentioned, to put in practice what they learn in those universities, in those trainings. Besides, for example, I travel in winter. So from January to March, we experience, cold weather, snow, something new for us. We miss our food, yes. But the most important, well, looking at advantages and disadvantages, it was worthy learning from other country, from others, and then trying to put in practice that. Definitely, this training was a great experience for teachers in Panama, teachers with experience and no experience. More experiences teaching, more experiences in my teaching practice. I had the opportunity to work with the after school program from 2013 to 2016. I work at Latina University. The universities in Panama function as the training centers for this program, after school program. It means that students receive English classes in the contrary shift. If they go to school in the morning, they attend the course in the afternoon, or vice versa. The course lasts 7 months. Students have to complete 300 hours. They receive material textbook workbook. Besides, they have interaction. They work in the laboratory, in the computer lab. We design and have extracurricular activities with them. The purpose to continue working with the aim to promote more speaking activities, and they can develop those speaking skills, because that's what we want. Yeah, we want our Panamanian students communicate and speak the language. And also the SIOP model. In the training, in the international training, we learn about the SIOP model. So that was applied in the planning activities, in the planning material of teachers. And also they perform different activities which we have to evaluate, oral, written. They have to do some tasks, midterms, final exams. So everything was evaluated with the purpose to know how much they have improved and take advantage of that program, after school program. Another program is the kids program. I work with this program as a coordinator. But the kids program, especially for elementary schools. What it means, the kids receive 10 hours of English per week and 2 hours of science. They receive material, textbook, workbook. Classes were developed according to the curriculum, the national curriculum, and according to the textbook that they were using at the moment. Also, the SIOP model was applied. And as you can see, well, teachers were very, very enthusiastic and developed very creative using different activities, celebrating Thanksgiving, celebrating an English fair with students, and here celebrating English Week. English is fun. So different schools participate in the different contests. All these things organized by the teachers. So definitely they took advantage of all the things that they learned, and the main purpose to promote the use of the language, to promote the interest of our students in continue learning English. And from 2016 at present, after I returned from Pennsylvania, from Wilkes University, I was invited to join to work as an academic coordinator. It means that I stopped working as a teacher, and then now I'm going to work visiting teachers, observing their classes, helping them in their planning, in their classes, the material that they create. So I continue working then as an academic coordinator, also organizing some kind of workshops and seminars, preparing and designing material for the national curriculum. Last year, we had to adapt the curriculum because of the COVID, yeah? And then we as coordinators, the academic coordinators, work on that. Also, I was a teacher trainer for Cambridge certification. So I worked with different groups of teachers, elementary teachers, yeah, who were really interested and decided to take the certification. Also, we work with teachers teaching about the use of platform because technology changed and classes changed to the virtual mode, yes? So we had to keep updated and continue working and supporting the work of the teachers. Yes, teachers in their classes. Here I was giving a training to the teachers about reflection, training teachers for the certification, visiting school. So the tasks were not easy, yes, but definitely a great experience for me as a coordinator. Another experience working with the BECAS program. What is the BECAS program? It is a program from a private bank in the country. The bank offers scholarships to students of low income, but the students have to take some kind of exams. It's a rigorous process. So if they pass, they got scholarships because they came from public schools. And the scholarship is to study in private schools from 7th to 12th grade. Besides that, these kids receive an English course during the year. And then I work with them in this program called Becas de Excelencia. The students, they are from 7th to 12th grade students. We have the course from March to October, Saturdays, classes from 9 to 12:30, and the groups are small, 8 to 15 students. These students are amazing. They are very intelligent. They are very enthusiastic, and they have in mind, their goal. They know what they want to be. They are studying and they doing their best. And besides the English classes on Saturday, we had some kind of extracurricular activities, visiting museums, doing some kind of games, interaction in the classroom, reading, yes, and then retelling. So the objective of the program are that students develop critical thinking, yes, promote in them the enthusiasm to continue learning, because at the end, once they finish 12th grade, they can apply for scholarships, international, or study abroad, like the Walton scholarships. In fact, some of the students got this scholarship. So definitely this program is amazing, excellent. Well, it's sponsored by the private institution. In fact, next month, October, this month, we will finish the course, then until next year. So for example, the students right now, I'm working with level 1. Next year, they will continue with level 2. And they are students from the whole country, yes? Right now, because we're working online, I have a student from the different provinces of Panama. But before, I just worked with students in the capital, in Panama City. Well, what can I say to summarize? My experiences have been amazing. Great time to continue learning and experiences. In 2011, I started being a member of Panama TESOL. So I decided to join and start working as a volunteer. Later, I continued doing some other roles in the organization. In 2016, I started working with the program Panama Bilingue, supporting the Ministry of Education programs and supporting English teachers. And then in 2019, well, was the last time that I attended a face-to-face international congress. So I hope that next year we can meet together and see each other. Definitely the experience of a teacher is incredible, and we have to continue working for our dreams, for our goals, and supporting the community of English teachers. So thank you for your attention. You can contact me at susapatero@gmail.com.
Thank you, Zuleika. Interesting experiences. And it's interesting to see the programs and the work that Panama is doing to support English learners in Panama. So I hope that our ministries of education connect and they can get some ideas from yours. So next, we will hear from Carolina Ortiz Rufinelli from Paratiso in Paraguay. Carolina holds a bachelor's in English from the National University of Asunción. She also has a master's from the University of Alabama. She's certified to teach English through Certiso Trinity College London, through Style Rufinelli de Ortiz English Institute, where she has been working for more than 20 years teaching English to young learners, adolescents, and adults. She's a theater actress and director of several musicals produced at her institution. She's also responsible for the teaching practice at UNA, third year program. She is currently the first vice president of Paratiso. Carol, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Well, I really appreciate that you invited me for this, and I'm just going to go over a few activities that we do here in Paraguay in terms of Paratiso. Like now, this weekend, we have our post conference of our Paratiso community. You all know that, well, we have 20, so we have people representing their TESOLs in their countries, right? So we have our TESOL, Uru TESOL, Paratisol. And so we have our conference. We started it last weekend, and we continue tomorrow and next Saturday. And tomorrow we have raising supportive relationships in the classroom. So building trust is the topic of our conference this year. It entitles a lot of things. Like we want to build trust in the community. We want to rebuild trust among families, within the teacher community, teacher students. We've been going through a lot, right? So we thought about what topic could bring people together, right? So you are more than invited. If you're interested in attending, I will be sharing the email of our president, Harshini Lalwane, and we will invite you to join us tomorrow for our 5 p.m. session presented by Richmond by Mayra Lopez, Raising Supportive Relationship in the Classroom. So you're more than invited. And the topic that I wanted to arise, well, I really appreciated that people shared about Panama and El Salvador situation. It's quite similar to our situation in Paraguay. We do have differences in public and private systems, but I thought about what topic I could bring as a topic of discussion, right? In terms of experiences in English language teaching, right? In Latin America and Caribbean role. So I thought about feedback, but I thought about teachers of different countries teaching English in Paraguay. So how we perceive feedback, right? And so what do we consider when we listen to the word feedback? When a coordinator or when a director gives you feedback, then you think about aims, rapport with students, you think about classroom management, you think about materials and resources used in class, student talking time, teacher talking time, clarity of teacher instructions, correction, self-reflection, right? So you think about all these aspects of a class when observing a teacher, and when you, as a director or a coordinator, you need to give feedback to that teacher so that that teacher can do a self-reflection and maybe improve some aspects for the following class, right? So I wanted to do a research about teachers of English being Hispanic natives and teachers of English in Paraguay being English native speakers. because sometimes as a Latin American teacher or coordinator, I had to share feedback to native speakers, like English native speakers, right? And um, I don't know about people who are attending this panel today. I wonder if you, not being native, how do you feel when you give feedback? When you need to give feedback about teaching aspects, right? But you're giving feedback about a teaching situation that is not your own language, but you are actually giving feedback based on all the information and all the preparation and all the training that you have after so many years. I'm lucky that Gracia said 20 years. It's a little bit more. But uh, I wonder how we feel. I wonder how us Latin or Hispanic native speakers, how we feel when we need to give feedback to a person that is a foreigner. And so I did a survey on a focus group, and I wanted to ask a few questions about how do you perceive feedback when it comes from a professional who is a non-native English speaker? That would be the first question. And the other question was, how useful do you think feedback is to understand the culture of Hispanic families? And why did I think about this? It's because we all know that Latin America culture is very assistentialist. Like we hold hands with our kids. We really need to show our kids lots of things. And Anglo-Saxon cultures are more independent. So when we have teachers coming to Latin America, our duty as coordinators is to hold and to guide into how to come into our culture and how to understand families, or how to understand that that kid is not doing that homework because you actually need to maybe do it with him, or give him a little bit more guidance, or we might have to talk to the family, and the order of uh, when it comes to classroom management, for example, uh, there is an order of appearance. And first we talk to the child, then we call the parents, so the order of things, or on steps that we follow, right? So these two questions, and of course the first one, like, are you a Hispanic native or an English native? So based on that, the speakers, the Spanish native speakers, replied a few of these questions, and I want you to pay close attention to the way we answer. Right? As long as professional is a qualified teacher, feedback is welcomed. As long as it's a professional, feedback is welcome. Right? If it is someone who has some background and formal education on the language, it is appreciated. Yeah, I value it. Or same as any other, as long as it's good feedback and it's delivered well. So this is a keyword that I wanted to give you some time to observe how we Latin Americans, how we reply into when we are asked, how useful do you think receiving a feedback from a professional is, right? As long as it's delivered well. So that's a keyword, because we Latin Americans, we are very sensitive. We are very sensitive. So as long as it's well given, as long as it comes from a good professional, if it's someone who has some background and formal education, like you need to show me or demonstrate that you have more background or more uh, information than me, or also paying attention to valuing it, right? And the way we are given that feedback. We think a lot about emotions, right? So what about English native speakers? I listen to professionals with respect, regardless of who he or she is. These are the answers of some of the teachers who I requested. It doesn't matter if the feedback provider is native or non-native. I think feedback can be received on different aspects from both peers. From both peers. Feedback can be received on different aspects, either from a native or a non-native, no matter that, right? Insightful. Sometimes we as native speakers make mistakes, whether it be in grammar or spelling or syntax. We don't notice because we speak so fluently, but this can confuse students who are trying to learn from us. So because non-natives often have to study many years to reach the same level of English, they are able to spot things that normally we would miss. So I really want you to take a minute to read again the replies of English native speakers and Spanish native speakers. So this again shows that it doesn't matter if the feedback provider is native or non-native, the feedback can be received, right? Sometimes we make mistakes, so you tell us, right? So both cultures receive feedback, but this shows that Latin American teachers or Hispanic teachers tend to be a bit more sensitive in the way we receive it. But English native speakers receive it. Of course, if it's in a bad manner, in the disrespectful way, of course, it's not going to be received well, but they don't even think about that possibility. Because I think the culture is what brings us together. Right? Now, how useful do you think feedback is to understand the culture of Hispanic families? That was the second question that I had. So how useful is it? For Spanish speakers, it's fairly useful. There might be no relation at all between the Hispanic family's culture and the feedback provided by a given teacher. So there might not be a relation, right? They consider it's very important. Feedback is always useful to understand different contexts. So I would say very important. Yeah. So of course we know that understanding the culture of Hispanic families is quite essential to make a very good connection with the language and to be able to create meaningful communication, create meaningful projects where students feel at ease and they feel respected towards the culture. What about English native speakers? This is how they replied. I don't communicate, if I don't commute genuinely, there will be no understanding. In my opinion, it's very useful. No family is exactly the same, but understanding cultural norms goes a long way to ensure you don't needlessly offend anyone. When a Hispanic peer gives feedback, we learn more about what is important to the culture as their feedback focuses on what they think is important, and our students belong to the same culture. So invariably, the same may be true for our students. So again, when a Hispanic peer gives feedback, we learn more about what is important to the culture as their feedback focuses on what they think is important. And our students belong to the same culture. So invariably, the same may be true for our students. So receiving feedback is essential, And different cultures receive it or expect to be delivered in a different way, but they are all received. And I'm glad to know that they're all open. Nobody rejected any feedback as long as it's well given. We just have to be careful um, with the words, but we need to be specific because without feedback, we don't grow. We just think we got to the point where we're doing things right, but we always need to rethink about how we're suggesting things, if we can relaunch activities, if we can think it over. Now the pandemic has demonstrated that we have so much potential, that we are capable of doing so many things, of switching things, of making changes in our curriculum, of adding things, in testing, learning applications, and also continuing with the learning process. So anyways, that's it. Thank you so much, and I hope this was helpful. Thank you very much. Gracias.
Thank you, Carol. It definitely a relevant topic as it pertains not only to the academics of ELT, but the cultural and the social emotional aspects of learning. So thank you for touching on this very relevant topic.
Thank you.
Next, we have Jesus. And Jesus holds a master's degree in teaching and learning foreign languages from Universidad de los Andes in Venezuela. He's the head of the Department of English at the School of Modern Languages from ULA Mérida, managing director at Academia Angloamericana, and 2019-2021 Ventiso president. Professor Sosa is also the coordinator of the Centro de Innovación y Emprendimiento para el Uso de Tecnologías en Educación, ULA. His work focuses on the fields of reading and writing, the use of technology in ELT, and teacher training. So Jesus, your turn to take it away.
Okay, hello everybody. I'm really pleased and honored to be here. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. I think my screen is already available. So when I was thinking about this topic and want to present and want to share about Venezuela, I was saying, okay, we need to relate this to elements we give to the ELT community, changes we have made, and for something I've seen from the other panelists is that some things have not changed in a long time, or they haven't changed that much, even though research has evolved and goals have changed. And one of the elements that came to my mind, it was precisely the title I chose. What makes it hard to learn English in Venezuela, and what are we doing about it? Because one of the elements that I hear constantly, especially at the academy, is that even though students do receive English classes at school, they come because they have difficulties and elements don't change. And I was thinking, okay, why? And what are teachers doing nationally in this case that it could serve us to do some changes? So to start on this one, I just wanted to say, like, when do we start learning English in Venezuela in different stages? And I see some relation with the other countries from Latin America. Some people get to start English in kindergarten. It's not part of the curriculum per se. Some schools have it as part of the extracurricular activities because they do work in projects. They do work with other activities, and they depend solely on the availability of the teachers and these extra skills they have. So some of the institutions do offer English to kindergarten students. It's mostly related to TPR practices, oral comprehension, maybe some vocabulary, and it doesn't go any further than that, which is a good place to start with little children. Then in primary school, this one started around 2007. Students had the opportunity to learn English in primary school, because before that, like for example, for my generation, it was just from secondary school on that you had the opportunity. But then it started in primary school. Again, it is related quite with vocabulary, with simple sentences, with simple phrases, and they scale from one grade to another. Actually, if you if you read the first curricula we had, it was a sort of repetition of the same topics, but with extra difficulties or a bit more of vocabulary. But it was basically the same through the 6 years of primary school. And then secondary school, which is the one we have had most of the time, it's like the ultimate level that you get. You get 5 or 6 years of high school, and you get English like several times a week with different levels. And there was a more established curriculum for that one. Overall, we spent 13 plus years in Venezuela learning English at school. But why don't we actually speak English? Because that's one of the difficulties students have. That's one of the main things that prevent them to maybe have better work opportunities or study opportunities. At least they don't receive that from school. So I divided that in 3 main categories: resources, and I'm leaving aside contextual situations or political situations that you may know about our country. I'm staying with pedagogical ones on this one. In the case of resources, like since we live in a context of crisis, having resources for teachers to teach, like for example, a CD player, a computer, a laptop, those kinds of resources, some of teachers, or especially in the public education system, they don't have them. Sometimes they don't even have the possibility to obtain copies to work with their students. Not to mention, for example, buying a book or some elements. They don't have those chances. And for example, for some schools, at some point, the Ministry of Education said, you don't get to force students and parents to buy books. You need to find out how to work. At some point, it was, I have 3 students with 1 book. I have 3 students with another book. I need to see how to work with those books, plus the students who don't have a book, and teach using that. So it was a lot of work for teachers. Okay, same for the students. They don't have the capabilities to maybe buy or find the elements to be part of the classes. There's also depreciation of the teaching profession in Venezuela because as a context in crisis, teaching is not the best paid profession or the most recognized one. There tends to be these, for example, doctors, engineers, lawyers. So being a teacher is not like the most appreciated profession, nor the best paid one. For example, let me tell you an example. Teachers in public institutions may earn like 20, maybe 30 bucks per month. But then if you compare it, buying a kilogram of meat is $3. Me at university, being an assistant professor and head of the department, my salary goes around $30, $40, again with the same expenses. So you can see how teachers are not choosing to teach. They're choosing to do some of the other elements. So human resources were also a little behind that. We can see a lack of teachers at schools. We can see lack of teachers at academies. Even at university, we have a lack of professors to train the future professionals of education and mother languages. Also, and this is an important one, the vision on how language is taught, and this is not only for teachers, also how parents conceive and how the curriculum it is. There's a lack of definition of a teaching or a language philosophy because teachers don't really know where they're placed. If you ask them, how do you conceive language should be taught? How's your teaching? How would you define yourself as a teacher? They struggle because they don't get to reflect on those topics, or no one told them they could do so. They were just following orders, and there was not this time for them to define those. There's a clash on how language is taught at university and the reality. University gets to be sometimes like a bubble. So when you go to the real world and you see how the profession really is with a classroom of 30 or 40 students, you see a different reality. And sometimes you don't get to fight that reality. As some other people have mentioned, it's quite grammar oriented and translation oriented. The kind of practices go for mechanics, not communicative activities, not to develop, again, maybe because it's big groups, but they go on those points. And we also have a serious lack of knowledge in the English language. At some point, we even have places who have English language teachers who don't speak English. Some of them at all. They know the basics to teach something, but they do not know how to speak English. And sometimes this one also affects students, a lack of knowledge on the same language to build the base for the following ones. And in the case of support, there's not a real motivation for students to learn and go to the next step and find their passion for learning. There are not many spaces to put the language into practice here in Venezuela because Spanish is our main language, and we don't have lots of places to practice outside the classroom English. There's a discrimination also towards having an accent, and this was something that was briefly mentioned. If you have an accent, you don't know that much English, and that also happens to teachers. If a teacher has an accent, then they don't know English, even though if they studied a language-related profession. English tends to be left aside by some other subjects, such as chemistry, math, and physics. They're actually called here in Venezuela the three Marys, because they're supposed to be the most difficult ones in high school. We don't get to choose different subjects as some other countries do. We have a fixed curriculum, and after your third years of high school, those are the ones that are the most difficult, and parents tell you those are the ones you need to focus on. There's not a lot of support from the administration. Some of them don't understand how teaching English works. Some of them don't understand that sometimes you need to do activities with a controlled chaos, or where you're going to have loud students, or will you be where you need to go outside the classroom to do. So sometimes there's not a lot of support. Sometimes there's no support from the parents, but basically because they don't speak English. So trying to tell them, hey, this is what your kid needs to practice, becomes difficult for them because they don't know how to do so, as they're not English speakers. Okay. And again, it's hard to find spaces for professional development, like conventions, like workshops, like courses, like you might attend in some places. There are several of them online. A lot of them are free, thank God. But then for those that you have to pay, if we come from a context where teaching is not a well-paid profession, how do you pay for those? What are we doing about those elements? Luckily, I gave you, I separated in different combined elements. In the case of the vision and how language is taught, plus providing some support, there is an important element, which is importance of teaching associations and institutions such as the British Council and the US Embassy, because they provide support to teachers. They have different programs teachers could attend. They are free programs. They're open to the public. You need to nominate yourself, but you get to be part of those programs. There was even one by the British Council where they made teachers travel to different regions of the country, especially public institution teachers, to receive training from other professionals. And again, we have through the US Embassy, such as the U Open programs, students also get some support, like they were mentioned by another member of the panel, the access programs on the binational members. Those exist thanks to those institutions. And there are teacher associations here in Venezuela, such as Ventiso, which is an affiliate of TISO, which is the reason we're here. We also have some programs to show to the regions, like the Teachers Helping Teachers Instagram Live sessions, which are more on the practical side, and it's more like an interview. Then we have the webinars, which are more theory plus practice element, which are far more formal than the Instagram sessions. We even have those with the Latin American and Caribbean TESOL. During pandemic, we even had the opportunity to provide an ELT training program that was taught through WhatsApp with Ventisolers who were in Venezuela and Ventisolers outside Venezuela. And this year, we even had the opportunity to have our first completely virtual convention, which was opportunity to reach those teachers that don't normally get to travel to other countries. And thanks to the support from people abroad, a lot of teachers in Venezuela were sponsored to be part of that convention. Of course, in the case of Ventiso here in Venezuela, we don't have a fee for affiliates. We provide our activities mostly for free or for a really low cost, so more people can get access. And in the case of resources, well, we have become resourceful teachers. Being resourcefulness for us is important. You need to work with the elements that you have. You don't get to work with the things you would like you would like to sometimes. You need to work with the things that you have at hand, and that means sometimes creating your own material with recycled material, with elements that you join with the other professors, with the chemistry professor, the literature professor. Those materials, you use them, and you teach English on those. And there is a support from technology, especially now the pandemic is here. There's a bigger support from technology, especially mobile devices, because we don't get to have lab computers, but most students do have mobile devices. And in the case of support, teachers are being encouraged to make classrooms a safe space, to make mistakes, to have an accent, to create their own hypothesis with language. They're being encouraged to do so because sometimes they're not taught. Our vision tells us that if something is wrong, something is wrong. But no, that's not it. You get to practice and you get to improve through making mistakes. Some of the schools, as part of extracurricular activities, have established English clubs for students to have an extra practice, conversational especially. Some teachers are having support from the most advanced students. This is in the case where teachers don't have a broad knowledge of English. And some parents, especially the ones for children, are being provided support by teachers through email, like this is how you're going to do this activity, this is how you can support them, watch this video. Some teachers are doing that. Some teachers have even created WhatsApp groups to share experiences, ideas, to solve problems. And that has also happened nationwide to create a community of support, especially with teachers from institutions that don't have many English teachers. That has happened. And there have been even initiatives such as the English program for talented kids. They work with the El Sistema de Orquestas in Venezuela. They have students who are musicians. That initiative had also a similar step in another state of our country. So new initiatives are being done to support students and also to provide support to teachers to show them that we're not alone and that we're here to support the children. And even though we have many, many things against us, there are these initiatives that they can be part of, and that we together, yes, we can, as we say in Ventiso. So thank you very much. I know this was really quick, but again, thank you very much. It was really nice to show a brief of this experience in Venezuela.
Thank you, Jesus. I think the experiences you shared are so relevant for all of us. We should all consider them and analyze them within our own context. I think the examples you provided are the case in many of our countries, and we are experiencing some of the same situations and issues. So thank you for sharing this. Thank you for bringing this to light and to our reflection. Next, we will hear from Grisel del Rosario from Dominican Republic. Grisel earned her bachelor's in education from Universidad Católica Madre y Maestra in Santiago, Dominican Republic. She's a summa cum laude graduate from the master's in educational psychology. She was also at the University of Georgia in Athens as a Fulbright scholar. And she has been a professor at Universidad Católica Maestra y Madre in Santiago, Dominican Republic. She was the director of the Carrera de Educación con 7 especialidades, coordinator of the CONANI technical team, and director of the Propedéutico del INTEC in Santo Domingo in 1987. She was also the director of the Dominico Americano Binational Center in Santo Domingo from 1991 to 2001, and the elementary principal from the American School of Santo Domingo from 2001 to 2020, and the language school director for the Instituto Cultural Dominico Americano in Santo Domingo. Welcome, Grisel. The mic is yours.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Gracia and Julie, for this opportunity. Well, I'm gonna make a description of how the ESL and EFL programs are evolving in the Dominican Republic. Well, let's go back in time, 1916. Dominican Republic was exposed to English in 1916 when the first United States occupation of the Dominican Republic was done. US soldiers were speaking English and our people were speaking Spanish. So it came out like a Spanglish. So the safe can were Zafacon. Many words were created because they just joined the two languages. In the autumn of 1933, Mrs. Carol Morgan and her missionary husband confronted with the task of an English language American curriculum was necessary for their children. Many Americans, they came here with multinational, international companies, so they create their own schools in English. Sometimes employees also had an access to those classes. Carol Morgan is still offering their program to the community. It's like a US school, same curriculums and same thing. And it's still offering their program to the community. In 1942, United Fruit Company and Grenada Company, the banana industry, was installed in Manzanillo, which is a little town, and a lot of Americans came here with the sale of bananas, and they really were occupying the little town, and they created schools that employees also can go there and get the knowledge at a free cost. 1930, 1961, we had a dictatorship, Rafael Trujillo Molina. He was a strong man, but he did many bad things for our country. But he did one that was very good. He created courses, 2 years of internship in kind of a university that they create in order to train teachers. And the Dominican Republic was top, second or third public schools quality in Latin America. Now, the English language that was taught at that particular moment wasn't the kind of goal that we want when we are acquiring a language, because they use the old methodology, and teachers didn't know English very well. I mean, not like we were talking later, it wasn't a situation of an accent or no. It was that they didn't know English at all. I remember the book that I used in elementary school, Don and Betty Hall. And all I learned was that Betty is a girl, Don is a boy, days of the week, colors, name of animals, and that's it. I wasn't able to say a word in English, I mean a sentence. That was the idea. Well, in 1947, that's when everything began regarding the creation of EFL, ESL programs in the Dominican Republic. The Instituto Cultural Dominico-Americano, our binational center, was founded in 1947 by a group of American and Dominican residing in the country. They were offering EFL programs for all ages, and was the place to learn. That's the motto for the Dominico. That's the place to learn. I remember that when Fulbright students were asked, I mean, where do you learn English? Wow, you speak very good English. The Dominico was the answer. And it has been top of mind in English language teaching, mainly because it has been helped and supported by the American Embassy with teachers development courses, reloads, and ELF fellow, English language fellows that have been on top of the development of English language teachers. In the 50s and the 60s, the method that it was used, do you remember Don and Betty Hall? There was also, that was for kids, but there was also a program for adult. I don't know if you have heard this name, Juan Marín Aguilú, who was presenting a methodology that would take you, to be an English speaker. And the thing is that the methodology was based mainly in translation at all times, and pronunciation was done using English and Spanish. For example, house was pronounced house with a J in a parenthesis, acquiring pronunciation instead of using the interaction, right? In order for modeling and interaction. That was the way to go, but they use the translation. That was what all was about. And that really gave you a lot of knowledge of grammar, but it didn't cover what was more important, which is speaking, listening, writing, and reading, right? Maybe you knew a lot of words, a lot of rules, grammar rules. Grammaring was at its top. And at the very end, you were not able to catch the real way of pronunciation because your own language was really avoiding that, right? Well, in let's say late 80s and early 90s, 2 bilingual schools were offered to the community. Dominico Americano School and American School of Santo Domingo, where I work in both bilingual schools. Bilingual schools were those who initiate the formation of the school. They have to be accredited by an association, like in this case was they were accredited by SACS, which is Southern Association of Colleges and Schools. They were growing constantly, more and more bilingual schools nationwide, but only a few were accredited. Let's say that was reached only for a high class, no middle class. I mean, the prices were amazing, and but many families were investing the education of their children in English so that they can get better places in the labor market, right? That was the idea. Spanish was mandatory in a bilingual school as a subject. So they don't taught English and Spanish at the same time, which was a mess when it was done. Half of the language was said in English, the other in Spanish. So Spanish was not the goal, but it was reinforced as a subject to be taught. And the results were good. I mean, the students graduating this kind of programs, they have perfect English and perfect Spanish. There was no something that didn't fit, didn't match. The public and private school system, they have to teach English as a subject and French as a subject too. Is mandatory. As you were saying, many of you said that you were for 12 years, you were studying English as a subject, but you didn't know a word. And now they are redoing this. The Ministry of Higher Education is offering, since 2005, a super intensive program for students who are going to the university. They finish high school and they need to they finish high school and they didn't know the language. So that program, the Ministry of Higher Education, has been very much, let's say, successful in this program. What is the present? We moved from grammaring, repeat after me, immediate translation, pronunciation using language 1 and language 2, constant communicative approach to language learning, language management for teachers must be a C1. This is important. We adapted the communicative approach in the 90s, enriching the 4 areas of language learning: speaking, listening, writing, and reading, and is included in our national curriculum for elementary and high school. Age grouping is used for kids and ability grouping for juniors and adults. And that has been a great idea that is not interfering with learning. Children and adolescents are training technology, are really enjoying technology in the process of learning. So it has been a blessing. Adults, they don't like that very much, but they are getting accustomed to it because there's no way to go. I recall my days of record players, TV videos, learning words from songs, lyrics by the Beatles and Frank Sinatra. You know what I say? That my best teachers were the Beatles and Frank Sinatra because I was constantly finding meaning. Thank you for listening. And it's wonderful how we can get together with this goal, make better programs for English language teaching. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Grisel. That was really interesting, and it's great to go down memory lane and see how things have evolved, right, in our contexts. So now there are great comments in the chat. So if you want to take a look at those, I have several questions that have been sent to me and some that I have pulled out from the chat. So we're going to ask these questions to our panelists. I have the first one here, and it's for Miguel. It says, thanks for this review of ELT in El Salvador. Please say more about the international standards used to develop the curricula in the recent project. Supposedly it was the FOMIlenio one. So can you speak a little bit more to that? You're muted, Miguel.
Thank you. Yeah, what they have been using is the Common European Framework, CEF, and they have been teaching the teachers how to use or how to align the materials based on this. So what they have been using is the CEF.
The CEFR. Thank you very much for that. Now, Zuleika, what would you say has been the level of progress in achieving bilingual or proficient level among learners in Panama? What do you think has influenced this progress? You're muted, Zuleika.
Okay. Yeah, what can I say is that the level of the students, have increased. And why? Because they are interested in getting job positions, better salaries. So they are improving the way, yes, they are taking more, they're putting more emphasis and importance in the learning of the language. And I have mentioned, I told my students that they have to be prepared for any job they want to be. They have to speak the language. People who vende raspados in the park, the taxi drivers, people who work at the airport, they have to continue preparing for the future, learning the language.
Thank you, Zuleika. Now for Carolina, how do educators working with Latinx students help them transition toward independence without sounding mean?
Yeah.
That's an interesting question.
Without sounding, well, I don't think you're taken as mean. It's just that I think the culture brings up more independent and self-regulated attitude towards learning, right? So I think it's building up student autonomy. This is a question about coordinators, like to coordinators not sounding mean when they give because I had another private question also from another speaker, another participant. You have to breathe as a coordinator. So sometimes the thing is that things go out of the limit and you have to give quick feedback because you have parents on top of you also. As a coordinator, you have to filter. You have to filter directors, coordinators, parents, students, teachers. So we're like a big colador, un enorme colador de the sentimientos, right? So without, we have to follow rubrics. We have to share some standards so that teachers know what is expected. Because if you don't have any resources, any materials that the teachers who are working cannot follow, I mean, you're going to sound a bit, you're going to sound more emotional than we are not following the expected procedures. So I would say that rubrics would be a good answer, just to make sure that you share the expectations beforehand, right? And of course, always trying to put yourself in the shoes of that teacher, because that teacher has to hold a whole class, and that teacher has a different variety of students, and it's easy for you as a coordinator just to sit and give the check and then and then not check, right? But you have to breathe and put yourself in that shoes, and in the teacher's shoes, and have conversations and ask questions like, what do you think would have been better for that child? What do you think would have been better for that teenager that is going through this family issue? What do you think we can do together? Can I help you somehow so that we can search for materials or resources that can give you more support as a teacher? Sometimes the teachers feel very lonely, and we have to consider that. And even more delicate when he's not living in his own country. So we have to be
Yes,
careful with that.
definitely. I agree with you, Carol. Thank you. Thank you for that response. So for Jesus, from your experiences in Venezuela, if you could change one thing to influence English language learning, which one would it be and why? That's a very difficult question.
Wow. um, could you, if I could change one thing about
One thing to
uh-huh.
influence English language learning, which one would it be and why?
Wow, I would say that we need to realize and we need to deeply reflect on the fact that really that English is more than just structures, because one of the things that I would say traumatize our students is that they always say like, okay, I ended high school and the only thing I learned was the verb to be. That's a comment you hear quite often. The only thing I learned was the verb to be. The only thing I remember is that you put an S on he, she, and it. And it's like, okay, English is more than just that. To show them how English could actually make a change while you talk and learn the language and not about the language. That's something I would really appreciate as a teacher.
Definitely. Yeah, I would find that a very difficult question to answer from my context in Honduras. So it's like there are so
Yeah,
many
like
things
choosing
that I would
one.
like
It's
to
like,
change. So
okay.
yeah, it's kind of difficult. So for Grisel, given your ample experience in ELT, what would you say needs to change in Latin America and the Caribbean to make English learning more accessible and effective? Another very difficult question.
It's a difficult question. Well, I think we must learn how to motivate students. If they have a goal, if they are enthusiastic about it, for sure learning will happen. Learning is something that is your dream, your project. And we as teachers, we have to install in their mind that learning is the way that they professionally will be, let's say, recognized, because right now is the way to go for professional CV, right? You need to say that you know English if you want to have a good salary. And so I think that that's a motivation. That's a motivation. Some people are self-learners. I love that. Some people have a lot of motivation, and they make it because the fire of the motivation, the wish, they wish to learn. So we teachers must teach them how to adore the learning process.
Thank you. Yeah, I definitely agree. The ambience that we create in the classroom definitely sets the stage for learning. right? So we need to be careful about that. So I have two questions just to close our webinar for all the panelists, and anybody can choose to answer. Just let me know who will do it. It says, thank you to all the panelists. I really enjoyed learning about ELT in your countries. I'm curious to know how the pandemic has affected the mental health and well-being of ELTs, English language teachers in your countries. Anybody can take a stab at this question.
Well, the consequences, they fire many teachers. The amount of students is going down from thousands of students to just a few. And people is afraid of coming back to the normal classroom situation. Right now, we initiated here in the Dominican Republic the attendance, presential, but it's causing problems too. This is going to be a process. It goes slowly, but we will get there. We will get there. It's improving. It's improving.
Definitely. Anybody else wants to respond?
Yeah, could you repeat the question again, please?
Yeah, so how has the pandemic affected the mental health and well-being of English language teachers in your country?
Well, I don't teach in Latin America. I teach here in the States. Yet I believe that it's affected us considerably. It's not easy to to be online. You really have to be focused, and if you're untrained with technology, that even compounds the problem. So it's taken a toll on how teachers have been able to address the needs of students online. This year, I work in Miami. We have returned to the classroom at 100%. Compared to what we did last year, just being online, there's nothing like being in the classroom. I mean, I love being online. I enjoy it. I'm pretty good at what I do. But being in the classroom, it's a whole different ballgame, because you have to, there are so many skills that it will take a longer time to develop online if you're not trained for it. It's not that it can't be done. It's just going to take a little longer, because you got Microsoft, you got Google, you got Apple. They're all working as teams online, and they're creating beautiful products. But to do this as teachers, which we are not, most of us are not trained with technology, and we don't have all the right tools. And also, the students are not coming into the classroom with, okay, I'm going to do this because I want to do this. You have to find different types of motivation. Some of them are intrinsically motivated. Sometimes you have to externally motivate them. But within the classroom, there's a lot more possibility, especially when you work with teams. And building those teams. And I work with ELLs. So I think it's taking a toll, going back to addressing, going back, it's taking a toll. My colleagues, they're drained. But now that we're back in the classroom, it's much better. Yet we still have to maintain a certain distance, 6 feet distance with them. We always have to wear a mask. But I welcome it much more. I mean, it's like it alleviates. Being alleviated. So that's how
Thank you.
That's
Thank you, Jorge.
Touching each other.
Okay.
We're touching each other.
Yeah,
Again,
we're able
we
to
need
hug.
to touch each other.
Definitely, definitely agree. So one last question for the panelists. How often are teachers being trained in your countries? Are they being updated permanently?
Okay, so I would say that in the case, oh, I'm sorry, someone else was answering?
Go ahead, Jesus.
In our case, it would depend on the kind of institution you work in, because there's not like a national plan of training for teachers. So some institutions do train their teachers. For example, here at our academy, our teachers are trained once a month, and they are actually supervised one each term to be provided feedback. And I felt related to that. And if there's anything to be improved, it is taught how to improve it and they're given feedback, but there are institutions who receive no supervision at all, no training at all. There's not a national standard on how teachers should be trained or what should be trained of. And more likely, I would say they're not being updated permanently because, as I said, we don't have that many opportunities. The bigger opportunities we have are with Ventiso, but we don't get to, even though we're online, we don't get to reach all of the teachers and not all of the topics that should be addressed. So in the case of Venezuela, it's not permanently. It depends a lot on the kind of institution you work in, but that's not the rule at all.
Definitely. Yeah, I think it is a case in many of our Latin American countries. I know it happens in Honduras, like we don't have a plan for ongoing professional development. So there are still many questions, but we are out of time. So we want to conclude, and I want to ask you to please use your reaction buttons and the chat to give all our panelists a big round of applause, a big thank you. We appreciate your time in coming to share your work and your experiences from your own context so that we can all learn from each other. We want to tell you not to miss the 2 upcoming Hispanic Heritage Month webinars, October the 8th and October the 15th. On October the 8th, multiculturalism and research in Latin America. That's going to be very interesting as well. And October the 15th, social responsibility and challenges in Latin America. So don't miss out on those webinars. These are being done in collaboration with Helta TESOL in Honduras. So we're going to be happy to host and support this Hispanic Heritage Month celebration. TESOL will be also hosting a webinar the last week of October for Indigenous Languages Months. Watch your email and TESOL social media for more information about the webinar. I hope to see you in person and online at the TESOL 2022 Convention and English Language Expo, March 22 to 25th in Pittsburgh. This convention will be a hybrid event with in-person sessions and virtual sessions. Registration will open November the 1st. Juliet will share the link in the chat, so be sure to join us there either virtually or in person. We can't wait to see you there. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your time and dedication. Again, thank you to the panelists. We will see you in our next webinar.
Thank you.